Morena tātou and welcome to the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, BOP Emergency Management, for today, Friday the 5th of July 2024. We are opening our hui this morning at 10 a.m. Now we'll open just with a short chair's comment regarding the recording of this meeting. A reminder please that members and staff of this meeting is being recorded and that the recording will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council website at the conclusion of this meeting. I also remind please all present that local government decision making affords no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for comments made during meetings that are subsequently challenged in the court of law and determined to be scandalous. So with that, we'll move on into the body of our hui and invite Acting Director Tahiri to open our hui with karakia timatanga with an opening prayer. Acting Director Tahiri, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, the Chair. Mino tātou. E ruana te whenua, hiko te uira, papa te whātiri hiko te uira, o te mumu, o te awha, tātou te hau te tauhiri, haumi e, hui e, tā, kia ora.
Thank you, Acting Director Tahiri. We are joined this morning and would like to welcome our guests, please. We are joined this morning by the NEMA Deputy Chief Executive, Gina Rogers. Gina, if you can just give us a wave, please. There we go, Gina Rogers, who will be joining us for item 9.1 relating to Whakaari White Island, which is a public excluded agenda item. We're also joined this morning by Ben Green, Morena Ben, the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Manager for the whānau and the Tairāwhiti. Ben, just a wave please for committee members. Morena, thank you for taking the time to join us. I believe we also joined online by Deputy Mayor Imig, our alternate member for the Whakatane Council. Morena, Deputy Mayor Imig, thank you for joining us. Can I just, before we launch into our apologies, I just give an acknowledgement to our whānau in the Wairua Tairāwhiti Tohe area. We were very fortunate to have an amazing team in our emergency management Bay of Plenty Rōpū who were deployed across to awhi our whānau, and just our acknowledgements and aroha to them. Agenda item 1, please, Tēnā's apologies. And we've received apologies from Mayor Tanya Tapsell of Rotorua Lakes. We're joined this morning by Deputy Mayor Kai Whang. Thank you for joining us. We have an apology from Commissioner Chair Anne Tolley from Tauranga City Council. We're fortunate to have the presence of Commissioner Wosley to join us this morning. We have apologies from our Regional Council members and Councillor Malcolm Campbell and alternate member Councillor Von Scott. And we have a apology also this morning from Mayor Luca. Are there any other apologies? If there are none, members, I have a mover, Deputy Mayor Kai Whang. Do I have a seconder and Mayor? Sorry, I have a seconder and Mayor Denia. Apologies, that's the way I do things. All those in favour, please signal aye. Those against. Item is carried. Agenda item 2 is the public forum, and we do not have public forum this morning. We've not received any. We'll move on please through to agenda item 3, which is items not on the agenda, and we have none this morning, so I'll take the agenda as received and distributed. Agenda item 4 is the order of business, and this morning we have moved the public excluded item 9.1, which is the update to Whakaari White Island, will be considered after item 6. We'll move through it. I'll slow down as we get to that time, team. Inviting please agenda item 5, declarations of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of interest of any of the items on our agenda from committee members this morning? Morena, your worship, we are joined at 10:07. Thank you for driving across so very carefully from the beautiful Opotiki district. We're joined this morning by Mayor Moore. Lovely to see you. I'll just confirm please from members, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? If we have none, moving on to agenda item 6, which is the public excluded business to be transferred into the open this morning, we have none. So team, we are moving actually into the public excluded section, which is moved into the public excluded section to maintain legal professional privilege with regards to the Whakaari White Island update. Can I call for a mover, please, to move? I have a mover in Commissioner Horsley, seconder in Deputy Mayor Kaifang. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, we will be moving into the public excluded section. Very good. I'm just checking. Very good, thank you. And we have a readmission into the public arena, moved by Deputy Mayor Kaifang, seconded by Mayor Moore. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, the item is carried, and we resume our meeting in public section. Moving on, please, to page 9 of our agenda. We are at agenda item 7, which is our minutes. Agenda item 7.1, the Bay of Plenty Civil Offence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee minutes, way back on the 5th of April 2024. Do I have any comments, points of clarification from committee members with regards to the minutes, appreciating that it was back in April and we're sitting in July, committee members? Any comments invited from Acting Director Gaidi with regards to the minutes? Just acknowledging that it was the meeting where we were joined by the Honourable Mark Mitchell. We had a visit from the Minister on that day at the start of our meeting. If there are no call or invited mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes, I'm just checking those who were present. I have a mover and Deputy Mayor Kaifang, a seconder in Mayor Denio for the meeting minutes from the 5th of April. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, the item is carried. Moving on, please, to agenda item 8, which is reports. We are on page 21 of our agenda. Agenda item 8.1, which is the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group statutory appointments. Acting Director Tahiri, we renew hands. Thank you.
Kia ora, Your Worship, and through the chair, I'll take the report as read, and what we're asking is for the approval of the appointment of Dr. Lenny Wolseley, who is the Manager of Strategy and Performance for Whakatane District Council, as the Whakatane District Council Local Recovery Manager for the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, as defined under Section 31 to 17 2002.
Very good. Deputy Mayor, any comments or points of clarification you'd like to add to that?
No, she's just a very capable person and calm under pressure. Yep.
Wonderful. Happy to take that as a motion if you'd like to move in that way, Deputy Worship.
Yes.
As moved by Deputy Mayor Emick. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Commissioner Horsley. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? The item is carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Emick, for your contribution. Moving on, please, to agenda item 8.2, which is the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Assurance Framework. We are on page 25 of our agenda. Acting Director, we're covering it in your hands again. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair again. I'll take the report as read, but I will highlight a few things within the report itself. So the assurance framework comes on the back of our newly improved group plan. Within the group plan, what we have is a section around monitoring, evaluation and reporting. The assurance framework is the document or the framework that's going to help us move through that process as a group. What it does is it brings focus and alignment across the group, so across all of our councils, but of course Kiko going all the way through, so that we are all singing the same sheet of music, and also so that it enables us to work a lot closer in terms of how we report and how we deliver our services as the group. So that is essentially what the assurance framework does. It's an amazing piece of work that's been put together by Taylor Wilson, one of our planners, and we're asking that it is received and approved by the Bay of Plenty.
Very good. Comments or points of clarification from the committee members, please. I have a mover for both recommendations to receive the report and approve the assurance framework for 2024 in Mayor Denia. Do I have a seconder for the recommendations? I have a seconder in Mayor Moore. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Emink. I see you there. The item is carried. We're moving on, please, to page 43 of our agenda. We're at agenda item 12, reports. 8.3, correspondence received. Acting Director, and thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring Julian Bealty up to the podium, please. Chair.
Would love to have Julian Bealty join us. Harawai. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Mr. Bealty, Julian has no idea why he's here. I lured him here under false pretenses to give us a bit of a brief around recovery. But what I would like to talk to is an acknowledgement of Julian's mahi that he has done so well within the recovery space, not just for the Bay of Plenty Senior Group, but throughout New Zealand, nationally. He has deployed multiple times to aid in recovery. And for those who aren't aware, Julian Bealty is the principal advisor for recovery for the Bay of Plenty Senior Group. He was recently acknowledged by Honourable Mark Mitchell with a letter of acknowledgement to highlight the breadth of knowledge around recovery that he brings to the sector, and he has been awarded a national commendation on behalf of the Australasian leadership and emergency management team. So this correspondence was to acknowledge Julian, and I wanted to acknowledge him in front of the committee for the work that he's done.
Wonderful. Look at him hiding in the corner. There's nowhere to hide. Principal advisor in our recovery space. Comments, we'll invite comments, questions, bouquets actually from committee members this morning for your mahi and the team that you work alongside when unfortunately events do occur and our people are often at the very most vulnerable times. That's a tricky space to be in, and we absolutely commend you in the work that you do, the way that you do it, the collegial way that you bring people together to take care of our people when they need us the most. Any comments or questions, recommendations from committee members? We see the award that was awarded by the Australasian Institute of Emergency Services. That's across Australasia. Just saying that out loud, and the amount of times that you were deployed alongside many of your other team members into other communities to be able to serve other communities. We absolutely thank you for what you do. We're very proud that you are a son of our rohe. That's a big brave statement, but thank you for what you do. We take false pretenses because kāre or kōrero te kumara, we don't like kumaras and talking about our own sweetness. But there are times where the work that you do can be very burdening, very taumaha. The system that we work within is not always helpful, and we appreciate the ninja-like style way in which you achieve your work to be able to look after our people. Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Kia ora, Julian. Thank you very much. And thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Acting Director Tahiri. So we have two recommendations to receive the report and receive the letter to surprise our principal advisor, Julian Liberty. Thank you for that. Do I have a move of the recommendations? Moved by Deputy Mayor Kai Thong, seconder, and Commissioner Wasley. Those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, the item is carried. Moving on, please, to we're at page 34, agenda item 8.4, At the government inquiry into the response to the North Island severe weather events. Acting Director, we're with you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair again, we have Ben Green, who is the group manager for Tairāwhiti, here to give a presentation. But before he launches into his presentation, I'll just give a quick overview of points from the government inquiry itself. So as you're aware, the report of the government inquiry into the response to the North Island severe weather events was released in April. The next step of this work is for the government to respond to this report. The development of this response is being led by the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. The senior group managers, so that's Clinton's level, and all the other senior groups alongside Ben, were provided with the opportunity to present to the DPMC, Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, the National Emergency Management Agency and the Minister of Emergency Management on the perspectives of the report. The group managers agreed they would like to provide the same presentation to all CDM group joint committees. And as Clinton was not able to attend today, we have been very lucky to have Ben Green to come and deliver that on his behalf. So without further ado, Ben, I'll hand over to you.
Morena koutou to the chair, and I'd firstly acknowledge the previous support and equally ongoing potential how we work as in between our, particularly Bay of Plenty and Tairāwhiti, and equally what's played out last week with that surge into Wairoa, and I even had managed to spring a couple of my team down there, and just exemplifies really the requirement to be as neighbours connected. In terms of the professional competencies and what we maintain between both groups, I certainly hold Bay of Plenty in high esteem, really as a leader in a number of areas, particularly as a group. You're well served by the professionals you've got in your mix there. Also, the second point, and it's I think certainly the accolades for Julian, who has actually spent a lot of time here as well, probably far too much time for his liking, but what that has served is really the ability, particularly to get a structure into really what is, quite a equally a growing requirement to get across recovery. And the reality is that we've been in recovery for a lot of years. It's been subclinical in the way it presents, but the requirement to get that structure has certainly been a testament to Julian's mahi that he's leaned in there with. So if I, just in terms of report, is that something that's going to, I'll take it as read in terms of the presentation. I'll talk for the salient points relevant to what's been put together. I've had the privilege or misfortune to actually be part of the first two planning sprints with DPMC this week in Wellington, and I can really provide an overview in terms of the process relevant to what's being achieved for that initial part. And equally, just within what Clinton's done an excellent job of condensing down the synopsis of the work that's been collated to look at the. You'll probably hear a new acronym, but I was the first time for me, and of course we live in an acronym world, but the NISWE, the National North Island Severe Weather Event Review, was obviously quite a key document now that's going to set the direction for how this piece of work is going to be turned into a briefing paper for the Minister, and equally the work streams that will be connected to that. So just, in terms of the way we're running this, are you going to present from your end, or are we going to do that from my end?
What works best for you, Ben? Do you want to share your screen, or would you like us to put the presentation up there?
I can talk to the just relevant pages, so that obviously not going to tie up too much in terms of the presentation. We'll just talk the key points, and I'll just relate for those if you're happy with that.
Gotcha.
I guess the overarching view is a collective, particularly across the CDM groups, and reflecting also you've got 16 separate legal entities that are looking to get congruence in the way these things come together. But certainly the support of the design end state, and really would agree with the need to really look at the system in terms of what it requires with the refresh and revamp. As such, the willingness in working with DPMC, which has commenced this week, we have, for the number of sprints that are being conducted, representation from the SEDM groups. I think we've got 2 fixed places that in terms of the collaborative environment that's taking place with. The key findings, which is the second page with content on, really is much as the report highlights is that the current system is not fit for purpose. And I think the last 2 to 3 years, particularly with the onset of climate change and severity in the frequency of these events, really do necessitate a change them. Equally, really what is perhaps the findings of the NSWE, really if you go back in terms of the previous reports, there's a very repetitive theme around the same items. As such, really, I don't think it's a requirement to go back and try and find a core root of a lot of the problems have really been identified over successive reports there. And hence that with Sean Bolton, who's leading the DPMC team for that, there is a requirement really in terms of what are we not executing or turning into the aspects of addressing these, and that's very much a theme with the work streams. So the key findings really in terms of what was brought out then, as you can see, there's a number of recommendations from the 2019. I guess you got to take into account really what New Zealand's been dealing with as significant national events, and certainly been impactful with the onset of COVID. Equally, the other key events, and that really hasn't had the 100% focus, I guess, of the sector onto what would otherwise be the execution of a lot of the report findings there. NEMA particularly, though, one thing on the second page of the key findings was the obviously the establishment of NEMA, exponential growth with the number of staff, but of course that hasn't translated into a regional context. So you've had a growth within the NEMA as the national body, as the steward of the system. Really, much as you've got resource at the top, that doesn't translate then in terms of the work streams that then try and populate back into a regional level. And of course that's a bit of a mismatch there in terms of trying to get the operational context synchronised with the strategic oversight there. What is the key finding on the third page is really, which certainly is very much a theme of the NSWE report, is the bottom up focus on actually recognising community. Equally, our communities activate, and I won't deviate too much on this. It's structurally what we don't have in terms of an overarching system is how we embed the oversight for community to be part of the system from the top down. Now, some of the recommendations, having worked on that particular work stream this week, the options really that are still being considered is where you have the recognition of community within NEMA. You'd have a steward or a pillar that has a embedded component to ensure that community has a voice relevant to the integration within the system. The way the sprints are run is quite a complex or quite a significant amount of work to condense. But having been part of 2 of them, the way that's been run, I think is really taking the very coarse problem definition to refine it somewhat and come with some broad options for consideration that would lead into the next piece of consultation. And equally, it's a testament to what that team's leading in terms of what they're going to turn that back into the ministerial paper. And obviously the briefing papers condensing the outcomes of those planning sprints will be coming back to the groups for informing and for comment as well. The investment component, particularly funding models, which is the other one I was part of on Wednesday. Obviously, for all of us, it's the central come local government model of funding. The hybrid option there really is a key thing in terms of preferred. We get down to small councils, Portuguese, ourselves, and many others around the place. You're looking to try and stretch that level of funding to encompass a number of things, and that's quite a stretch even on a good day. Look, I'll move to the future models. There's obviously quite a fair bit of content in there, which that you'll be cogitating on. Really, what's I think in terms of the imminent ability to get some initiate the change without too much overdue time frame relevant to investment or a complete restructure is the hybrid method of operating. It's the mixed central and local government funding. And that's unanimously been supported as the way forward for who would like to proceed with that. Clinton's, as he summarised the quick wins decisions, and those pretty much resonate quite strongly across all the group managers relevant to really kicking off that. And you got aspects in there that very much are technology based, some are very much systems based, and the other ones really within the policy settings as well. But obviously the reform of the sector is going to require all of those in terms of trying to get and develop a complete system that's fit for purpose there. I'll just move to the conclusion. There's a fair bit there, and no doubt if you've had time to go through this, there are obviously some significant pieces of work or consideration yet to follow through on. But certainly the speed and the pace that this is looking to be developed, probably similar to where the last bill was, is the pace of trying to push through a bill and trying to get that in place was probably where you'll see some degree of trying to replicate that, but we're going to be certainly a bit more cognizant and take into account the requirement to future-proof the model based on really what New Zealand's dealing with as the onset of weather and the way we need to configure iwi Māori in the mix, particularly communities and the ecosystem that makes up the emergency management sector. So we have certainly constraint around budgets. It's really been a theme of what the government's introduced in terms of what has been put through, but eminently I think there's a fair amount already in the system. It's not really clear where that dollar goes relevant to the level of investment that loses track from the time it leaves the government treasury. I'll take any questions on that. It's obviously quite a substantial piece of work, but eminently will be condensed coming back to respective KEGs and the CEDM groups for that capture, and that's going through. And as I say, the next 3 weeks very much is in that mode of addressing each of those recommendations from the Mataparai report, taking those relevant to the broader context to refine them into an options based, then to take to the Minister for briefing. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Group Manager Green. We'll start with Deputy Mayor Emick, please, and then on to Mayor Denia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ben, for the report. I'm just looking at recommendation 13, which is on page 53 of this agenda, and it's about funding, and it says prioritise strategic investments in reduction and readiness. While that is obviously important for us to mitigate going forward, we've already heard, from Mayor Craig this week, the devastation and how the access to response funds are so slow in coming. And I'm aware that this report is evaluating the emergency management services, but so much of that is redundant if when the emergency happens, we can't get access to the funding directly to the people that need it the most, and that's regardless of what any sort of insurance premise might be. So did they not consider that was something to keep in the mix?
Through the chair, I can provide a comment as much as an opinion as well. It is, you are correct. I mean, where do you cross the 4 Rs? Where's that level of investment go? I perhaps put a focus on recovery as an example. Really what we've got is very much a focus on the aspects of response, but equally, if you shift that and you look at recovery, now a key part of recovery, you're introducing reduction. And in our space, if you're achieving a well-led recovery plan, a reduction is a key part of that mix. Now, part of that would, if we can reduce risk, you're actually going to reduce your requirement for response. You're not going to absolutely remove it, but the correlation between recognising critical risk, the ability to mitigate or address it, will in some way offset your response configuration to that. The funding model was obviously quite a key one. That was a one-day sprint. It's quite a, to be honest, you'll find it even at a regional level. If you look at really trying to determine who's spending money on what relevant to where the current amount of funding goes to, it actually is completely opaque. I deal with it here, and it's recognised within the working group as well, is that it's not actually an action, but it will be a default requirement to actually map who's spending emergency money in what context. From the Treasury level, the first attempt to do that, they failed to really determine across central government agencies as a start point, really how that works. So they recognise that's a critical. Equally within the what's not playing through, and this is particularly in the context of the TLAs or the local government authorities, is what's being applied within the reduction space for funding specific to achieve reduction. That's recognised as a considerable gap or disincentive because it's just the current funding model is not appropriate for that. It is, I think, the opportunity to get it right. It's going to require a lot more than a one-day planning sprint, and that's recognised as well. But substantively, it needs to change. It's not fit for purpose in any shape and form the way we're dealing with things at present. And Wairoa was a good example. When you've got a town that's having to run a GoFundMe page to really address the fact that there's imminently gaps within the ability to deal with what they've got underway for immediate operational response and helping those whānau down there.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I guess politically we can put more focus and commitment into it, because like when you read through all the different recommendations, that's all lovely, but the person who's been impacted right at the coalface, it doesn't really help them, and it doesn't help us as elected members and governance to enable them if we don't have all that access, because for most people, the reduction and the readiness stuff, they still actually don't know what's going on. They hear about flood bank protections going on, but that's only just one little part of all the different risks and hazards that we have. So keep up the good work, but please let us know if you feel like we need to be a lot more stronger in our advocacy, because it's not even when, it's just an if. It's just actually we're all going to need to help each other when those tsunamis or earthquakes or floods happen. And I just feel like we're still quite passive and over-evaluating what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it on paper, rather than the call to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Nick. Mayor Denia, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. And this is a question both for you and Ty Rafferty and Stacey about Lindsay, and that is, are you intending to make any improvements or take up any of the recommendations now, or are you waiting for government legislation and direction? Some of those appear to be you could implement really well straight away, but are you waiting for the government direction?
For the chair, I'll just offer my opinion. Once again, it's not so much a unitary view across the groups, but where we are really in the operational and actually in the critical sense of really how well we're serving our communities with really what and particularly we've been through and seeing the onset of what we're now dealing with as a norm of the last 3 years or so. So the mechanisms of addressing and refining a sector, we've got to find the imminent bits that we're going to work on without the direction for what will come through in report. I think by default, for example, the communities always form a core part of what and how they function within the context of emergency management. And I certainly have a very good oversight for how emergency management Bay of Plenty operates in context. We're quite similar in a lot of regards there. The operational focus for us is where obviously we can tend to that quite quickly. Other aspects, if you look at tools, common operating pictures, you'll find becomes quite a repetitive aspect where you're trying to determine situational awareness. We're actually organically growing these systems ourselves, but actually by default developing it without the requirement, or given the current gap, really you've got a central agency that's struggling to actually have one themselves. Now I've sat on the Uru Whenua as an evaluator 2 weeks ago, and then really what's apparent within the report, you certainly, when you get to have a look under the hood, we have got some areas of imminent need and necessity to actually get on board, but we're not going to get enterprise level investment as the first cab off the rank. given that government's in a constrained fiscal environment as we already are. But I'd take heart from the fact that what happens in the sort of day-to-day aspect of the groups doing business, we do a lot that actually collaborates and actually leverages one another for that. We won't address every aspect of what's in the report there, but there's significant work that's taken place on the back of particularly the events of Gabrielle last year.
Kia ora, Ben, and your worship through the chair. If I may speak on behalf of Clinton in this respect, Bay of Plenty CDM group has never been one to sit on their laurels, I would say, and I'm sure you would all hold us to account if we did not do what we were supposed to be doing. So, I feel we are already ahead of the game in some areas, and we're already looking to make improvements where we can without having to wait for government, central government decisions. We're looking at, we take lessons from every event that we participate in, through debriefs with our local councils and through the group within itself. And I think we had a session with local staff a few weeks ago, and we looked at reprioritising areas and sort of what we can actually push now without waiting for a government decision.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Deputy Mayor Kaifong.
Thank you, Chair. Not really sure if this is a question for Ben or Stace, but in recommendation 12 was around river management systems. And given what's happened recently in Wairoa, I understand that the Minister for Environment, Penny Simmons, has indicated that she would be suggesting that a review be undertaken as to the flood response. And so I see there that we've got the urgent river management systems in the recommendation. And so what will be contemplated there, for example, that we could do immediately before we become perhaps a target of a review in relation to that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kaifong. Through the chair, we do work closely with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council and their flood route, but if I may pass this to our Bay of Plenty Regional Council representative, Mr. Rupert.
Welcome, Mr. Fraser. We apologise that our committee members aren't here to support you today. This is by no means intentional, and we'd appreciate any way that you can inform us.
Yeah, no problem.
So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and my apologies too that our elected members aren't here to support the committee today. I think Deputy Mayor Kaifong, the rivers that we have in the Bay of Plenty are quite well managed, and if I could use Whakatane River as an example, there is regular monitoring happening already of both the profile and the views, and consents are in place to enable immediate response to threats of floods. So of course we have managed drainage schemes in the eastern part of the Bay of Plenty that enable that management framework to be in place. I think so. The summary of that is we have quite good management in place already, and as Stace have said, always looking for ways to improve that.
Thank you, Chair. I think I was probably asking it more from a rural perspective, and I know that we have significant concerns around lake levels and some of our streams that feed into the lake and the downstream effects in the Kaituna. So just wanting to ensure that if we had significant flooding here, that we are not going to end up in the same position of having a review, because we haven't done enough to be proactive in terms of our resilience and making sure that we're doing what we can before we get to that point. So
yeah, thank you. And yes, that's a fair point. And I should have noted through you, Madam Chair, that there are conversations going on between the flood managers, so Mark Townsend at the Regional Council and his team, as well as JP and Stavros here at RLC about management of flooding in Rotorua, including the level of Rotorua, the management of that, potential dredging of the Utahina stream, a lot of, and I know that RLC have received good amounts of funding to do stormwater mitigation works, and so trying to tie all that work together.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from elected members? Mr. Fraser, thank you for joining us. Look, my observation in my engagement with Mayor Little from Wairoa was what really is key is localism. We know it's who are the most vested, who have the most skin in the game, who live in these communities and observe these things every day. Let's welcome that information in to guide us rather than perhaps being a little bit more late in responding, I think is what's really been coming through. I'm sure we have every confidence that the flood team is engaging well with flood team from Rotorua Lakes here and staying nice and close and cosy to our neighbourhoods. I will go that far down into the system because they're the ones who can observe these things. With the gift of sight, they will look out their windows and say, look, getting a little bit high, let's get some of that response going a little bit earlier rather than later. We have no control over the weather at times, and let's have a healthy respect for that localism, information gathering and contribution as well. Thank you for that. If there's nothing further. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Fraser. Any other comments? Look, Group Manager Ben Green, we would like to thank you. Earlier in the year, Mayor Moore and I took up the invitation from Zone 3 to come across as Zone 2 members, really just to support the rohe, and we took up the invite to come across to the bunker. You wouldn't have noticed us at all. We were almost the Zone 2.5 coming across, but we would like to thank you, acknowledging that in order to join us today, your rohe, the beautiful Tairāwhiti, Tūranganui-a-Kiwa have experienced a range just oncoming when I think about mere stops. And the ability to be able to lift up your people in terms of hope. We were able to observe from afar across the impact that that was having. Recent weather events in Te Karaka, if I think about that community, we really do thank you for coming in to join us in the absence of Director Nordé to be able to take us through the review of the North Island events, with the intent of trying to do what we can within a very limited system. I will say in regards to recommendation 13, there will never be enough funding to meet need. The need is, we used to say arm's length, and the resource to it is to your wrist, but you would just about say it's whole body length and it's a toenail worth of funding. So our localism, the way that we stitch our communities together and work alongside, we don't wait for orders to come down because the weather doesn't wait. But frankly, we move along respectfully. We just give notice to our National Emergency Management Agency colleagues to let them know what we're working on. We're not looking to be passive at all, Deputy Mayor, if I can say that at all. We would like to be seen to be responding immediately in our neighbourhoods, but we are actually part of a wider system through civil defence and every other matter that territorial authorities and regional councils are responsible for. Group Manager Green, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope that's been enlightening for members of the table today. It certainly has for us. We thank you for your accolade for our colleague, Mr. Iwati. You would have seen it front and centre. And thank you for those comments to remind us of the work of our kaimahi. Team, we are on agenda item 46. We do have, if there's nothing further, we do have a recommendation, please, to receive the government inquiry report. Do I have a mover in Deputy Mayor Kai Fong, a seconder in Mayor Denium? All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, the item is carried. You're most welcome to stay and join us. I'm sure you have much to do with your team. We thank you again for coming in and stepping in to share that in the absence of our Director, Lord Day.
Nā mihi nui ki a koe, Chair, and thank you for providing me the opportunity to help in leaning there with Stace on behalf of colleague Clinton. This week, I've done everyone else's work. I would take leave and probably try and do some of my own, but actually, that's a great opportunity to connect, and certainly was always the intention to sit in with your KEG and the aspect and how particularly you're doing business in the Bay of Plenty there, which is of key interest for us as well. So, Kia ora koutou, and thank you for the opportunity to support and tautoko the team over there.
Ngā mihi, keep safe and take care of the wairawhiti. Thank you, Ben. Ka kite. We are moving on, please, to page 54 of our agenda, which is agenda item 8.5, the Bay of Plenty CDEM Group, fourth quarter reporting schedule, 30th of March through to the 30th of June 24. Acting Director Tahiri. Hence, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair, firstly, let me apologise for my working notes that made it through into the agenda. It's a slip on my half as I was pulling everything together. I'll take the report as read. Busy year, we've done a lot of mahi. There are a couple of pieces of work that are being reprioritised. Nothing is not being done. We're not about cancelling any pieces of work, but we have got a couple of pieces that we are looking to reprioritise. One of those pieces of work is a really, really cool piece that I hope we can get in front of you within the next few months, which is the Bay of Plenty CDEM Group Hazardscape Report. That particular piece of work is being led by a consultancy called Simplicity, and what we're looking at is a publicly facing document that reads more like a booklet, designed for our communities and designed for our people. Really breaks down what our hazards are within the Bay of Plenty, and how we can sort of understand them a little bit better. And we're asking that the report is received.
Great, thank you. Any comments, questions? Mayor Denia, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure this comes onto your working commentary explanation, but on page 56 it says there's confusion with where it says smart Clinton for the Mobile Emergency Operations Centre to enhance the response capability. Is there still confusion? Do you need government support, or is it just a note you were thinking at the time you wrote it?
That was my thinking at the time, and whether or not the person leading it was the director and it's set out of the director's office, or if it was being led by our controller and our operations manager, as it will be a very operational piece of equipment and kit. So that's kind of where the thinking was for me, and it was my confusion as opposed to actual confusion. So
has that been resolved now, though?
It has been.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Denia. Any other questions from committee members? I'm really just looking from the previous agenda item, Mayor Denia, there was a clarification of roles and responsibilities, and we're very pleased to report, thank you, Acting Director, that that's been clarified. If there's nothing further from members, we do have recommendation. Let me just find it before I move on. To receive the fourth quarter reporting schedule from 30 March through to 30 June. So moved by Commissioner Worsley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Clay Fong. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? Item is carried. We are on page 61. Let me find that of our agenda this morning. Agenda item 8.6, which is the Whakatane District Council Emergency Management quarterly report for quarters 2 for 23 through to 24. Acting Director, I believe this was presented by CEO Sullivan. Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. So what we have is the report, as through the chair, was authorised and sent through by the Chief Executive, Stephen Sullivan. Amazing report. David, would you like to speak a bit more to it?
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I've obviously got the memo. I followed the instructions, and here's a report for you to consider. Yeah, so if I can I'll take the report as read, just a couple of points I'd quite like to highlight for you, which is we are doing quite a piece of work around our climate change adaptation risk assessment at the moment here in Whakatane. My point is we're trying to link our climate change work more closely with our land use planning and emergency management functions to really try and get those tight across the 4 Rs. And it's a work in progress, but it's a good piece of work we're doing. And secondly, just to show, indicate, I guess we're trying to really put an emphasis on increasing our training levels across our EOC staff. For a council of our size, 90 trained staff is hard to continue to get trained to the level, particularly with that 60% training figure lifting now to 80%, needing to be trained to the required level. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions. We'll just take the report as read.
Thank you, Mr. Bewley. We'll invite Deputy Mayor Emick if you'd like to offer up any comments with regards to the Whakapāne report this morning. Thank you.
I know nothing too much to add from what David has said, but I would like to highlight that our climate change adaptation plan seems to be regarded by other councillors and executives who are looking at it, and people in the climate change space, as being very forward of a lot of other councils in New Zealand, and that the team is more than happy to share any of the resources and the information that we've got, so we don't all have to reinvent any wheels. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Emick. Any questions or points of clarification from committee members this morning? If there are none, Deputy Mayor Emick, I'm actually happy to take, if you would like to move in that way, the recommendation to receive the report. I have a mover and Deputy Mayor Emick. I'm happy to second the recommendation. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? Sorry, we're just going to wait on Rhonda. Let's not whisper so that we can find out what's going on.
It wasn't urgent, it wasn't it was just
For a question, because
so it's fine. I could have taken the question after the vote. Yeah, it was just a question as were the rest of us supposed to have provided this kind of report, given that I see that only Whakatane is in there.
very valid
This
question.
data suggested going forward, at least.
We would love for you to type in acting director Tahiti. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair. Look, I'd like to talk about this report. This is what we've been aiming for to come from the entire group through our local representation in order for everyone sort of to bring to this forum to give their feedback around what each council and each member is doing within the space. So if that is something that you are able to provide, we would wholeheartedly support that and absolutely love to see it.
Thank you. Can I just invite Deputy Chair of the KEG, Grenfell, just to confirm that there is a conversation that's happening at the KEG level, given that this is being presented by Whakatane. Council, is that a shared view from the KEG memberships to considering the wider membership beyond just CEs of council and other government agencies, please?
I don't know that it has been a live conversation, but it can be following this meeting.
Thank you for that. Hopefully that gives and will encourage all of committee members just to touch base with each of our CEs around what's been presented by Whakatane Council at this meeting. I have a mover. We'll continue on. Mover and Deputy Mayor Emick, seconded by myself. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? The item is carried, and we leave that with the Deputy Chair Grenfell to take back to the head. Thank you. We're moving on, please, to page 65 of our agenda. We are at agenda item 8.7, the update from the Director of Emergency Management today. Acting Director Tahiti, in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and again through the chair, I will take the report as read, as it has come straight from the director himself, and happy to take any questions on that.
Do we have any questions? Commissioner Mosley, we're with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. It's just in terms of para 1.2, where there's a discussion around the response teams. There's one based in Tauranga at the airport, and it's a proposition for one in the Eastern Bay. So is there thinking to then have more response teams than those two?
At this stage, I don't think so. Well, I'm getting looks from Cara Gordon, who may be able to answer this question a little bit better than me.
Advisor Gordon, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the focus at the moment is on the vacancy team. So we've renamed Total to a vacancy focus team to try to build that. And then once that work has stabilised, we'll transition into building areas.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, points of clarification from committee members?
Happy to move receipt, Chair.
If there's nothing further, we have a mover and a receipt of the report and the Commissioner Mosley. Do I have a seconder? We have a seconder and Deputy Mayor Kai Fong. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, item is carried. Moving on, please, to page 70 of our agenda. We are at agenda item 8.8, which is our National Emergency Management Agency update of the Bay of Plenty Joint Committee. 5th of July, we're joined by Regional Emergency Management Advisor Lily Falls. Ms. Falls, we're in your hands. Thank you and welcome.
Atamani and Tato, thank you through the chair. Nina has provided a report which I'm happy to take as read. I will say one of the paragraphs has been superseded. If I bring your attention to the last paragraph, the CEDA Resilience Fund, it says in the report that the decisions have not been made. The decisions have since been made. NEMA has made decisions about which funds have been approved. For example, Tarawā Lakes. Apologies, just let me get my report.
So you could clarify which paragraph you're talking about.
CEDA Resilience Fund, the last paragraph.
So we're on page 72 of our agenda.
Yes, correct.
And confirming that this is in regards to the Resilience Fund paragraph.
NEMA has made the decisions about which funds are approved. For example, the Tarawā Lakes Trust application has been approved. I'm happy to provide a written report following this meeting. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Folds. We look forward to that written update. Thank you with regards to that. Any other questions with regards to the update from committee members? Medina.
Just a very simple question, Lily. Back to the acronyms. On page 71, also NCC/NCNC facilities not fit for purpose. Can you just clarify what that actually means? It's a new one on me.
Thank you, Chair. I am myself not a fan of acronyms. So the NCC stands for the National Control Centre. The NCNC is the National Control Management Centre.
National Crisis
Management Centre. Thank you for the question, Chair. I'm also not a fan of acronyms for that reason.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Medina. Control Centre, Crisis Management Centre, those two for the acronyms that we got to. Appreciate that, thank you. It is a very acronym space, not just civil defence, and it's remarkable that we would have so many acronyms at times of crisis when we're trying to convey crucial messages. That is the space that we sit in, and there is some legislation that we are trying to comply with while actually responding in real life. IRL, I was educated by some young people recently, at pace in this way. So thank you for bringing us back to that, Medina. So when we are asked, we're absolutely clear, or much clearer, on what is being referred to in our agenda. Thank you. Anything further? If we have nothing further, look forward to the update regarding the Tarawā Lakes Trust. Confirmation, thank you for bringing us up to speed with that, hot off the press. We have a recommendation, please, that the NEMA report be received on the 5th of July. Do I have a mover? I have a mover in Deputy Mayor Kai Fong. Do I have a seconder? I have a seconder in Mayor Denia. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, the item is carried. Ms. Folds, thank you for your report. Agenda item 13 is the consideration of items not on the agenda. We have none at this stage. I will just take a moment, please, to acknowledge, quite remarkable that it's come up in this meeting, Deputy Mayor Kai Fong, the departure of CEO Sullivan from Whakatane District Council, not leaving the family of local government, but moving across closer to home, I believe, in the Waikato Rohe, moving across to Waipa to take up the new CE recruitment, appointment of CE. So we would like to thank CE and give our regards to our Whakatane District Council, Te Mānuka Tūtahi, and just see any comments from you at all there, Deputy Mayor Amick.
No, but thank you very much for those, and I'll pass that on to the Chief Executive. She unfortunately, while she's in her last few weeks, has had an ankle accident, so she's actually laid up doing everything via Zoom, so it's been making it quite difficult, but we've appointed David Bewley as the interim Chief Executive until a new Chief Executive takes up the reins. But there is a farewell for her next Friday.
Appreciate that, and we'll take that as an invitation also, Deputy Mayor Amick. Thank you for that. We're very familiar with Mr. Bewley from Whakatane Whare, so we look forward to supporting him in the interim role. Ensure the very best in your recruitment processes. Also, an acknowledgement with regards to the by-election processes that are happening currently in the Western Bay of Plenty, Your Worship, to fill the full contingent of your team of elected members for the Western Bay of Plenty. That's happening at the moment. We wish you well. And also, while we're here, our Tauranga City Council election that's currently underway. Commissioner Bosley, pleased to you yourself and your commissioner team. Thank you for looking after Tauranga Moana in the way that it has been done. We have varying views around the rohe of how effective or ineffective that may be. However, for Yano, there was a need, there was a call for support at the time, and Tauranga Moana will have representation. I believe sometime this month, Sue. I've been hearing for some time that this is the last meeting, yet we keep seeing our commissioners. We may possibly see you again, Sue. Thank you for your guidance, and from you and your team. We've been in a number of places while fulfilling the role that was invited and called upon at that time by the representative team of the day. So we may see you again. We're not really sure, but we have enjoyed having you here, and we look forward to welcoming the new Kaitiaki of Tauranga City Council at the conclusion of the current local body election. Perhaps our first run through of a 4-year term. I'm just going to put that in there as well while I'm here. Invite any comments from you, Commissioner Mosley.
Thanks very much, Chair, for those words, kind words. Yes, the election will know late on the day, presumably Marty on the 20th, in terms of who will be replacing us. As a commission, we formally finish, I think it's the 23rd of July, so there will be a gap of probably 8 or 9 days before the new council is formally sworn in. I have to say it's been a great journey. Never thought I'd be around the council governance table, unelected, but certainly have thoroughly enjoyed the role, and also the connection, not just in Tauranga, but in the wider Bay of Plenty and Waikato regions. So, working with the colleagues over the last 3.5 years. So, your next meeting, it will be a new mayor. 1 out of the 15 that's standing. So it'll be an interesting to who gets through. But no, thanks very much. I've enjoyed my time filling in as an alternate, and all the best for the future.
Very good, thank you. Remiss of me to actually just invite Medenia, please, with regards to current by-election processes for yourself, for the community board in your area. Please, happy for you to share with committee members. Thank you.
Just very briefly, Currently with the TCC elections, against the by-election for councillor for Tiputi and communal member for Were. Completely being overshadowed by TCC, but that's not really a surprise. And I look forward to welcoming new elected members to due course.
Thank you, committee members. If there is nothing further, we thank you very much for your contribution, and we do thank our guests who joined us today to be able to help advise us in the work that we do, civil defence emergency management mahi. There's nothing further. Acting Director Tahere, we do invite you, please. Kia ora kapita rātou to close off with today, closing prayer. Thank you.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Nā mihi ki a koutou katoa, i ngā rangatira. Mia mai tātou. Kāria te tapu, ki a wātia aitia, ki a tūro ki whakataha ai, ki a tūro ki whakataha ai, haumie, ūie, tā,
Kia ora, thank you. Our meetings